Hello, everyone. Welcome to our first session of the 2025 for the Marine API community in this Tech Talk and Office Hours. I want to start by saying happy 2025 for all of you, wishing you all a year filled with innovation, inspiration, and incredible achievements for all of you. And well, let's get started with this. For today, we'll have the welcoming again for all of you who may have been part of the previous session we got in the 2024. We're going to give you a quick intro to what is the Marin API community is all about. Then we're going to be having Maria and Tyler walking us through the Universal AI Getaway, which is our tech talk for today. Then we're going to be moving along to the Q&A, and then we'll be wrapping this up for an hour length session. And well, as I mentioned to you, the Maiden API is this Apigee and application integration community all across the world. This community was originated in Madrid, and this is for developers by developers, so that all technology enthusiasts can deepen their knowledge and peer with others and connect alongside so that you can empower by knowledge sharing, accelerate adoption, and of course, build a strong community of enthusiasts across the world. Oh, of course, I'm going to start by giving you the quick rules for this session. We're going to have this 30-minute presentation with Maria and Tyler. Then we're going to be moving along to our Q&A. You can drop your questions in the chat or using the feature of Q&A by Google Meet. We will be meeting with all of you almost every Thursday. As you know, we had a 2-week break for the holiday season. By the way, I hope everyone had a great holiday season during this time. And then, of course, if you will have to drop off by anything you may have, we will share this recording with you so that you can take a look at it afterwards. You can also share the link with your peers. We're going to be sharing the links for the session, recording of the session, and the deck through the Google Cloud community. And again, this is one interesting call to action that we would like to do, and we'll love to have more of you joining us during the year. If you want to present or be part of these community sessions, you're more than welcome to do so. Feel free to reach out to one of us, either by chat or by the community. We'll be more than happy to have you joining us. And well, without more to say, just to remind you that you can leave your questions. Just look for this icon in these geometric figures, and then we'll go through them at the end after we finish the presentations. And well, we have today joining us Maria. Let me introduce you to Maria. Maria is a customer engineer in Google's Apigee and application integration team. She has worked at Google for the last 4 years and 7 months, and she has a passion for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And prior to Google, she worked 8 years in consulting. And outside of work, she enjoys visiting playgrounds with her kids. So we're more than happy to have you today joining us, Maria. We also have Tyler Ayers. He's also a customer engineer, and he will be guiding us through the Q&A section. So without more than to say, I'm going to hand it over to you, Maria, and welcome to everyone to our session of today.
Thanks, Alexandra. So also from my side, Happy New Year to everyone. And Alexandra, maybe you can give me the rights to share my screen. I think that I'm not a host. So
sorry about that. It's always the
all
permissions
good.
and the
All good. It's until the first presentation. Then we have all the rights.
making you
All
go
good.
right now. You should be able to present now.
Many thanks. So it should be loading now. Yeah, you should be able to see my screen, right?
Great, we see it.
Perfect. So here you see the traditional digital value chain with all the personas and the components as we know it. So nowadays, with all the AI innovation, the digital value chain is becoming an AI digital value chain with all the components and personas again. The users of the generative AI are no longer passive consumers of data, but they are instead being powered by an interconnected intelligence. In order to access LLMs, you will need to talk to APIs, but actually also LLMs need to be able to talk to other systems as well, using RAG, or they need to talk to other LLMs. Side note here, RAG is an architectural approach that can improve output of large language model applications by leveraging custom data. This interconnected intelligence results in smarter actions and valuable insights and, of course, return of investment. However, there are also some barriers and challenges that need to be handled. Let's jump to our scenario here. Let us meet Freya. Freya is leading the AI platform team at Symbol Shops. Her focus is to build a unified generative AI platform to streamline the LLM adoption within her company. This platform must provide a single access point for all the LLMs that are needed, connecting all lines of business with various vendor models from Gemini, OpenAI, and also Symbol's own hosted Vertex models. Is this an easy piece? Really not, I would say, and the thought of trying to achieve this is giving Freya sleepless nights. At first, let us focus now on the governance part and see how we could help. So on the governance side, it is important to apply token limiting because one pays per token when actually using LLMs. At this point, it's also important to mention that tokens mean different things for different LLM systems. But we want to potentially limit how many tokens someone can send, and this could be done through Apigee, through monetization, through tiering. It could be also done through model routing as well. So now when we are calling that architecture solution, when you want to talk to an LLM, you might want to go straight through Apigee, or you might want to go through an integration backend as well. But often there are actually so many LLMs that you might want that routing in the API management layer itself. Semantic cache means basically that you're caching the response, and the reason for that is when you're talking to a large language model, quite often you ask the same question that another user, that somebody else might have already asked in a different way with different words, and you basically want the response to be the same. Then, of course, also advanced analytics are needed and model failover. So let us now have a better look. Semantic caching helps with storing and reusing the meaning of data. In this way, the cost is being optimized, but also the performance is being improved. With model routing and failover, the management of traffic from multiple LLM providers is centralized, and you have all the benefits of logging and security functionalities while the availability is given, it's being maintained. And last but not least, analytics help you gain all the insights needed into the LLM performance, quota usage, and failover events. We have brought a very simple demo, and in this demo, you will see how semantic caching can help improve your agents and LLM consumers' experience by enhancing model performing and reducing costs. Let us jump into the integrated developer portal of Apigee. You see here we have various APIs. In this specific use case, we will have a look at the LLM semantic caching. So let us start by asking a suggestion on a flower shop, and we will see how caching is being. Yes, please. So I have already used the key and the authorization is running. So you see, after sending the prompt, it needed like around 5 seconds until I get my response. Not bad. Now that caching is working, we need only 3 milliseconds, which is much better, I would say. Let's use now the second prompt. We are asking why the Earth is round, but we will rephrase it also a little bit. So now we will get our reply within 4 seconds, 4.8, which is not bad. If I rephrase a little bit the question now, so why is the Earth, round? Let us see the reply that will come back. And you see that we're talking here about milliseconds. So just by rephrasing, the same could be if we use another term or another word, not in the given example, but generally. And this is where semantic caching is doing the job and is really helping the performance and also reducing the cost in the end. The same we have monitored here, we have already recorded with the team in the slides, so nothing different in this given slide. So now let us also have a look at Freya's challenges in the AI ecosystem. Once there is an AI program, Freya basically wants to share this to the rest of the enterprise. Now this is the same problem that we also have with the APIs within Apigee. So we need to think into API products and how those will benefit the ones consuming them. We need also to think about how we can enforce token budgets with a tiered model. Here we can also think of monetization, of rate plans, of chargebacks, different product tiering. Also, internal account costing might be an option and might be needed in some cases. You want to know also some information, like how many tokens are being sent. It could be that somebody, for example, is sending millions of tokens. Just to take an example, Gemini has a 2 million context window. This means that you can send a huge amount of tokens in one go to Gemini. So you need also analytics in place in order to find out what is happening. And the model garden is about how you share your resources with the outside world. Now jumping over to the reporting part. As an Apigee user, you have access to the monitoring dashboard as also to the analytics dashboards within Apigee, where you can find a ton of information like proxy performance, latency, error rate, geomap reports, much more information. And of course, you can also create your own custom reports to pull in metrics like proxy errors and traffic if you want to, or to monitor a specific API metric. Now, let's say you want to visualize real-time API latency across your entire API ecosystem, or identify some trends across APIs, or even compare traffic data. And you might want to create a report for that data to share it with team members who don't have access to Apigee. That's where Looker Studio comes into the picture. By default, Apigee users have access to the Apigee data connector within Looker Studio to easily connect your API data with no export required. We've created a report template for Apigee data analysis to make it easy to get started in Looker Studio. And you can easily access it over the Apigee UI. Here we are in the custom reports tab, and you see it's over here. So let's click on it, and we are in Looker Studio. I can then choose the organization, the Apigee organization I want to import the data from. So if I click here on use my own data, I'm prompted with this window, and I can access the data from the given Apigee organization that I'm adding here. So I will need just to confirm again with an add. And after that, of course, I can start with the customizations. I can have the specific time frame that I want to. I can edit the given reports that you will see in a minute. So you see that we have API product growth, developer adoption. Of course, for April, I didn't have sufficient data, but I will extend the time frame, and this should look much better. And by edit and share, I have a menu where I can edit each and one of these reports that are available here. And then, of course, customize them in the way I want to and have the ready report as I want it. We have here a ready-to-use screenshot where you can find all this information that we have seen also before. The next report here, within Looker Studio, you can also create reports on whatever you would like to reflect in a given report. So for example, we have created a report on monitoring of LLM protection within Apigee for proxy token usage. There is a custom analytics metric, the prompt number of token. The error code 413 reflects too large content, and the error code 422 reflects content not authorized. Let's see this in the report, and this is how this could look like. And last but not least, from the reports that we have created for a given session, one major benefit of using Looker Studio is that it enables you to view API data at an organization level and aggregate and compare metrics across all your Apigee organization. And of course, in the end, for your broader API ecosystem, then most of the time, because most of the times you're not only having one Apigee organization. And in the next report, we will see for the selected period for a given time frame, the traffic per month and per organization, the top 10 API proxies, and the total traffic compared to entitlement traffic quota. And here you see this for the given time frame within 2024. Of course, there are much more metrics, much more potential, and also important here to say that Looker Studio is not the only BI tool that you can use. Of course, you can export all this data, feed them into your own systems, and of course, aggregate them at the level that you want to. But as the connector to Looker Studio is already available, is for free, it's maybe a good way to start using Looker Studio and make your own reports. So now let's focus on the security part for Freya. Freya needs again to block some malicious prompts. She needs to protect sensitive data. She needs to ensure complete auditing data. She needs to enable authentication and authorization compliance. And the question now is, how can we help Freya secure and protect what is needed? So we see Model Armor provides a unified safety and security for LLM prompting. Model Armor is mitigating risks like data leakage, prompt injection, and offensive content. And currently, it's in private preview, and it will be GA in Q1. Important side note, because we get the question a lot, this is a complete different product towards Cloud Armor. So we're talking here about two complete different products. It's Model Armor here. Then we have Apigee, which helps with platform security like authorization, authentication, logging, governance, and democratizing the access. And we have also advanced API security, which helps with misconfigured APIs. It can block malicious attacks. You get prompted with mitigation actions, what you could do. There is a whole bunch of reporting around everything. And of course, you can set up alerts if you find something malicious, or if you want to create specific rules, then you can have your alerting and inform your teams, your standby phone over an SMS, your Slack channel, or whatever is company-wide used in your given scenario. So in the next demo that we have, you will see that Freya can effectively detect and block malicious prompts. This happens within Apigee through authorization, in Model Armor through filtering, and then we're leveraging also cloud logging for auditing. But let's see this in action, I would say. So again, jumping here in our integrated developer portal, and now we have the simple agent. So if you see here, we'll send the first prompt. This is a suggestion for a flower shop. This should be all fine. We should get a 200 back. So everything working totally fine and nothing malicious detected. Now, if I ask, is there anything malicious running on a given IP? Let's see what will come back. So we have a 400. So this is where Model Armor is really filtering and detecting that something is not right within the prompt, something malicious might happen. And this is why this is being blocked. Same if I send also another prompt. So you get a first impression, of course, on how this could work all together in tandem, so Model Armor within Apigee. And of course, this is room to grow for a lot of more demos. I know that I'm handing over too many information in a short time, but of course, this is a first idea. And now let's jump into cloud logging. I will reload it so that we see the latest logs from the calls that I have made. And based on these logs, of course, you could set specific alerts. You could create some tickets if this is needed to your operations team. So all of this could, of course, be the next actions. So I would say, is there any question as of now? If no, I would hand over to Tyler for the Envoy part. And of course, questions, please provide us with questions anytime. Also, don't wait for the end. It's your session. So, Tyler, over to you.
Thanks a lot, Maria. That's perfect. So let me share my screen. And so what I want to show is just basically building upon what Maria just showed. And this was some real discussions or things, we talked about with in different projects on, specifically, what about if we have, streaming endpoints or, LLMs that are delivering a lot of data or complex unstructured data, perhaps. How can we still manage and monitor those endpoints using Apigee? And so what we've been working on is showing how this can be really easily done now by using Apigee X together with the Envoy proxy. For those of you who maybe are not aware, Envoy is an open source proxy that is used a lot. I mean, it's one of the industry standards used across, clouds and all kind of use cases in Kubernetes and Istio, and basically anywhere traffic needs to be shaped and proxied. Apigee's always, or for many years, supported an adapter into Envoy, and this works with Apigee Edge, X, and Hybrid. You can deploy this very easily in standalone, just as standalone processes in Docker, in Cloud Run, in Kubernetes. And the steps to get up and running are very straightforward, and you can follow those in the Apigee docs site. Once you deploy it, it basically looks similar to this, where we have an Apigee control plane, where we do all of the configuration, data plane. This is where our proxies, our API products, users, credentials, and everything else is managed, as we're used to in Apigee. And then in the data plane, we have the actual Envoy proxy. So the actual traffic is only flowing through here. So through the proxy, two backend and targets. We have the Apigee adapter running in the same context. And this is using an extensibility feature in Apigee, in Envoy called xproc, where there's a gRPC tunnel that they use to communicate. And the adapter is doing analytics, doing authorization, authentication to Apigee. So you can basically use your same API keys, your credentials to authorize, to get access to, products and endpoints here in Envoy as well. So how we can combine this then is basically what I've titled here Envoy satellite gateways, right? So I'm kind of thinking, multi-model, multi-gateway, that Apigee X, handles, all of our API endpoints generally. The control plane, analytics plane is global, or now in certain regions as needed. As Maria showed, we have Looker dashboards for visualizing, working with the data, seeing exactly what kind of traffic is flowing. And then the addition here at the bottom is to have Envoy gateways where we're using the Envoy adapter and also tapping into an analytics filter to grab data that's flowing through Envoy as well, right? And ingest that into the Apigee X analytics plane. The cool thing is that we can filter this at the load balancer level very easily. So for requests coming from clients that need to go through Envoy because they're using streaming or large or unstructured payloads, we can just route basically behind the scenes to Envoy. All other requests we can route through Apigee X directly. In the back end, we're going, maybe to Gemini Flash or Mistral or other large models, right, that are delivering unstructured data, or to external models. And the cool thing is that, typical API first, and especially in the AI space, the clients have no direct dependency or knowledge, right? It's just an API. It just works in both cases, right? Regardless of what kind of model that is in the background. And the cool thing is that we can greatly expand how we, monitor, see, how many tokens, collect that type of data. That's kind of the new currency, right? And also from streaming in large and unstructured payloads as well. And I'll show this now in a demo to see exactly how that works. Or how it can work in this example. Here you see, of course, this can run in Kubernetes, on Cloud Run, or on any VM, so it's very flexible to deploy. Cool, then let's jump over to a live demo where we can take a look in more detail how this works. You should see my Apigee console here. So here in Apigee, under API proxies, I have GenAI models proxy, which if I open it up, it's proxying both Gemini Pro and Mistral, both running in Vertex AI. So I can send requests to Gemini, I can send requests to Mistral, validating that those requests through API keys for authorization, authentication, doing some processing here, and also collecting data collectors as well, the token counts, right? So this is basically ingesting the token counts into our analytics, this policy. And so this is, of course, works great here in our full Apigee proxy. Let's go ahead and make a call just to validate that that's working. So this is just calling our endpoint. So my Apigee host is this this domain, and we're sending a prompt, write a story about a magic backpack, and this is going to Gemini 1.5 Pro. Just going through the Apigee proxy. Let's go ahead and send that over. And you can see that it takes a moment, like Maria was showing, right, a couple seconds to generate the story about the magic backpack. and then we'll get that response. And as you can see at the bottom, we have the usage data from the model, right? So how many prompt tokens, how many completion tokens, and how many total tokens. And that data we've saved here using the data collector policy, into which model was it, how many prompt, completion, and total tokens into our analytics, right? So that's very straightforward, just normal Apigee, how we can extract those types of details from the traffic and put it in analytics. So the next step is, let's jump over to Envoy configuration. And this is a open source or GitHub project that I created before Christmas or last year, that basically kind of bundles this together, the configuration. It's mostly configuration to spin up the Envoy adapter, the configuration for Envoy, also make it easy to deploy it to Cloud Run for testing, or you can run it locally also very easily. And also have the filter in place to extract that token data, from data flowing through Envoy as well, right? So, and again, this could be, large payloads, unstructured data, something that's maybe not a typical API that we're running through Apigee. This filter in Envoy is written in Go. And so this was something also that was very interesting to try out. This is a feature in Envoy that's in preview still, but should be released in GA soon, just to make it even more easier and embedded to expand and extend Envoy without having to write a separate service. So this is something I think we're going to see more and more of going forward, just to make it easier to extend Envoy. As you can see in the Go code, by the way, I just saw a report that Go is now the #1 API client language worldwide. So it's had quite a rapid growth. It overtook Node.js as the #1. This was based on Cloudflare's State of the Industry report, end of the year last year. So Go is really one of the main API client languages. So all the server, backend processing, a lot of it is running through Go these days. And I think that's a win for stability and speed, because Go is just such an awesome platform to work with. So Go in this extensibility option for Envoy just offers some basically some extension points where you can intercept when data is flowing through Envoy, when headers are being encoded and decoded. And in this case, especially data, right? And the nice thing about it is that Envoy, is always passing data frames through, right? So it's not buffering usually. And so you can basically intercept even, hundreds of megabytes or gigabytes of data and, very easily run screens on that data. So in this case, just in this interceptor here for the data that's flowing through, it's quite straightforward to, check in this data frame. So that's also nice. We're not getting the full gigabyte, if it's a large payload, but rather we're just getting a frame of it, right? So maybe this is 10 megabytes, 15 megabytes, whatever. And then we can do some operations to check, hey, are any prompt tokens, being passed through here? Completion token counts, total tokens, and if yes, let's extract those and send those to Apigee Analytics. So this is basically all there is. And so this little filter here is compiled into a Go binary. And we can easily configure that here in the Envoy configuration to basically right after the Apigee Envoy adapter for authentication and authorization. We can easily have a filter to do this filtering here using our compiled filter, right? So basically passing in a library. This is a Golang step, Go extension. It is still an alpha, but this should be into GA soon. I was looking in the GitHub issues, and people say it's production ready. People are using it in production, and it's just, I think the next release of Envoy is coming February or later this year. So we should see this released to GA then as well. And then we can easily apply this to certain endpoints, right? So we can start filtering that data, ingesting it into Apigee Analytics. We're already authenticating and authorizing it through the Apigee Envoy adapter. So it's an easy way to extend this traffic processing. So to verify and show this in use, let's start the Envoy adapter here. And so I'm just running this in Docker on my laptop. Start adapter is just running the container that's published on Google Container Repository, Envoy adapter, with my credentials and my configuration here from my project. So let's go ahead and start that. And then let's go ahead and start Envoy as well with the Envoy configuration. So starting Envoy is also pretty straightforward, just to run it in Docker, passing in the configuration, the filter, so the compiled binary as well, to run, running on certain ports, 10,000, for example, and just using the dev branch of Envoy, since this is a alpha or beta feature that's not yet in the GA version. So let's go ahead and start Envoy. So now Envoy is running, the adapter is running, our filter is running in Envoy, all through our configuration. So let's do our calls and just kind of see how this works. And we'll see in the background the standard output from Envoy. So we'll see when the Apigee adapter stuff and analytics are working. So first, let's call Gemini 1.5 Flash. And let's turn streaming on, right? So here you can see in the payload, we're passing stream as true. We also, and this is going to localhost, so to the Envoy port, which is then proxying to Vertex AI and Gemini, and also calling the Apigee adapter and our filter to check and process the data. We're still going to write that story about a magic backpack, so keeping with our demo theme. So 401 unauthorized. Oh yeah, no, this was a different call. Let's get the right one. Let's call this one. That was a different call that was proxying directly. So you can see here the streaming is, pumping data through, right? And this isn't a very large story. We could, of course, request a lot longer story, and it would just keep on flowing. And you can see here how our filter is checking each of those frames as it comes through, right? So we're getting different parts of the response. The last frame includes the usage data here. So the completion tokens, prompt tokens, total tokens. And you can see that we're checking each of these frames for tokens. Eventually, we find a frame with 8 prompt tokens, 621 completion tokens, 629 total tokens, right? And we're sending that to Apigee X Analytics, right? So it doesn't matter, how much data this is. We can just, keep on screening, keep on checking, and ingest that into our analytics. So that's just using, Gemini 1.5 Flash. Let's do another call to a large payload, and this repository includes examples for calling Cloud Run or using a global load balancer to route the data. But let's do the large custom model locally. So this is calling Envoy, and this model is also writing a story about a magic backpack, but it returns around, I don't know, 20 or 50 megabytes of data, right? So we're getting into large amounts of data, something we typically don't want to process in memory, right? So this is something where this frame checking is quite practical. So let's go ahead and run that. Of course, I think that's a different URL, the right URL. So we're going to large model, and you can see this is just a lot of data, right? So this is just megabytes and megabytes, or maybe hundreds or gigabytes even of data that's coming back. And you can see as well that our filter was checking, and at some point it found those tokens and sent those to Apigee Analytics, right? So so this is quite interesting, to be more flexible on what kind of data we can intercept and interpret, and the Go filter makes it very easy, or much easier to tap into these pipelines and still use the Apigee adapter functionality for authentication authorization. For all of those calls, we were passing an API key, right? That's getting access to certain models, to certain apps as we're used to in Apigee. So that's all working consistently, right, across all the different calls and all the different API endpoints. So let's go take a look in analytics to see exactly what was flowing. So let's go to a custom report that interprets or visualizes the summary of the prompt tokens, completion tokens, total tokens, and you can see that we're going to see all the models, right? So we can really see even the large models, Mistral, running Apigee X, Gemini Pro, Gemini Flash, right? So because we're getting that data both from Envoy as well as from Apigee X, we can really have total consistency for all of the processing, even in distributed satellite gateways as well as the main Apigee X gateway. Cool, so that's the demo I brought today. Just to summarize, the Apigee Envoy adapter handles the authentication, authorization, and rate limiting. We have here an Envoy filter in Golang, but you could also use Lua, WASM, gRPC, other options if you want. I think Golang opens up new possibilities for more easily writing these filters and extensions, and this can extract data and send it to Apigee as well. Envoy does need to be self-hosted, but it's very easy to deploy to Cloud Run, Google Kubernetes Engine, and basically anywhere you can run it. And the source code is on GitHub, so if you're interested, take a look and get in touch or create an issue or ask a question if you have any questions. Great, well, thank you very much. Let's get into Q&A. If there are any questions on any of these topics, we can have an open discussion on that. And we also have some topics from our community forum that we can go through as well that are quite interesting. So really, it's just an open forum now for any questions and answers, discussion, feedback, burning questions here at the start of the year. Does anyone have something? If not, we brought some open questions from the Apigee forum. And this is one that was asked in a previous session last year on some best practices on mocking service callouts to another Apigee proxy. So Ian asked this question, which I thought was quite interesting, around if you're doing service callouts to other systems, what's a good strategy for running tests on those proxies, right? If you don't want to call the systems, you can't, they're production, how can you best mock those in an Apigee proxy? And basically, one good approach is to just put those service callouts as well in Apigee, right? Then you can very easily, have a mock or a test flag, and if you're in a test mode, then just return mocked or fake data back to the callers. So that's one very easy way. Or of course, you can put additional logic in the proxies to just retrieve that data directly instead of doing the service callouts. But I would just prefer to do the service callouts because that's part of the processing, and then just have a proxy in front of all of those services, and then have a flag that says, hey, do we really call the target or do we return test data? So I put a little description and a link to a demo here in the forum on this topic. So one way of doing it is to have a return fault policy that checks, if we have a parameter somewhere to say, hey, is this test or not? And if yes, then return some mock data. The nice thing is that if you use the raise fault policy, it's very nice. You can very easily substitute in, variables or runtime data into the mocks, right? So you can make it very realistic. So for example, in this example, if we're, this is using that same Gemini proxy that we just used. And so for example, if I wanted to mock it, I could insert the actual prompt here very easily into the result payload. No coding needed, no JavaScript, nothing, right? You can just do this with standard policies. And then if the mock flag is true, return some standard requests or standard answers to the prompt without actually going to the Vertex or Gemini backend. So that's one approach. If anyone has additional ideas or some examples, feel free to post them here in the forum. I think it's a really interesting topic. And there's lots of cool ways to mock and test proxies, I think, using all of the possibilities in Apigee.
Thank you, Tyler. I think we
Sure.
just got a question in the Q&A. Do you want me to read it to you?
Yeah, sure. That'd be great.
Got it. Usually, Envoy adapter is used to interface Apigee with backend systems. When should we use it instead of Apigee?
Yeah, great question. If I go back to the slides, basically you can kind of think of it as we used to have a product in Apigee called Micro Gateway, right, which was basically a lightweight, back then that was a Node.js gateway that you could easily deploy in edge locations, for IoT or places where you couldn't or wouldn't want to run a full Apigee installation. And I think Envoy is similar, right? So it's very lightweight. It's very easy to deploy anywhere, basically. So if you have use cases where you need APIs to be available locally, Apigee Hybrid maybe is oversized, right? You don't need a full caching and everything built in, but rather you just need a lightweight gateway that still enforces authentication authorization, rate limiting, also has the possibility to do light extensions with the filters. Then Envoy is a great choice for those types of use cases, right? So it just depends on which features you need. Interestingly, in this demo, it was quite nice. The full models going through Apigee, you have a lot more capabilities available in there to work with the data, apply policies, like Maria was also showing earlier, right? Just add easy caching that just works, prompt armor, cloud armor anyway, right? So there's tons of great things you can do with very little effort running full Apigee. Envoy, it's none of that stuff is available for free. And if you want to add caching, you got to bring your own cache server. If you want to add any other features, then you have to add it yourself. So it's not meant for large scale or I would say central API platforms, but for just lightweight stuff, needs to be on the edge or in a local environment or just with basic requirements, then it's a great option to have. And the cool thing is that you can route effectively at the load balancer level, so your users don't have to know or care, right, through which gateway their API key or their JOT token works for both, right? And they can just subscribe to the same API products and where exactly, if it's a lightweight use case with Envoy, or we need more capabilities with ApigeeX or hybrid. That's just depends on how which gateway is used for those use cases, right? So I think short answer, it's great to have those options, and it depends on the requirements, right? What exactly you need for the particular processing of an API, right?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you,
And of
Tyler.
course, and maybe one short notice, and of course you can use them in tandem all together. And some use cases we have seen in the past by customers are gRPC use cases, WebSockets, or managing long timeouts, again with Envoy, but using parallel also Apigee, and maybe some circuit breakers, so managing advanced backend use cases, I would say southbound features, right? Maybe those could be also something. And for the next question, so semantic caching works with Envoy. Envoy doesn't have any caching, so it relies on Apigee. Then you would need Apigee, you would need model armor, so the unified solution itself. Envoy only has authorization, authentication. It relies on Apigee for authentication, authorization, quota management, and analytics, and this is it.
Yeah, and you can add caching to Envoy, but again, you have to bring your own, Redis caching server. It's not as turnkey out of the box like it is with Apigee. So that's why I think it made more for lightweight use cases. But the cool thing is to have central unified portal, credentials, analytics, so that for the users it's very transparent. No difference really. It just depends on the capabilities needed. Right? Cool. Any other questions or comments? This or the testing topic or anything else?
I guess
We have
we
a
can
few
continue
minutes.
with the forum. Oh, sorry, Tyler.
Right, yep. We have a few minutes left. So one additional topic that I thought would be cool to mention today is a feature that's in preview now in application integration, which is really exciting, called templates. And if you haven't seen this yet, it's something you can try out today. It's something that's very heavily requested just to increase the collaboration in the integration space, right? So make it very easy to publish, reusable blueprints of integrations and share them, in the organization or with different users, across the organization. So within a team or across teams. And it's quite cool to try out if you haven't had a chance to look at it. Basically, the docs, walk you through exactly how to set it up. There are multiple types of templates you can use. So the global templates are available to everyone, provided by Google. Then you can also have shared templates that are shared with you or with individual people or groups. And then project templates that are provided as like a marketplace in the GCP project that anyone that's building, integration workflows can reuse and utilize. If you try it out in the console, it's here in the menu now under templates. And it's quite cool to just take a look at some of the built-in templates that are available to test from Google. Pretty interesting stuff, right? So, configuring automatically real-time syncs between databases and Salesforce, offering a CRUD API on MySQL out of the box, right? Very cool. And you can basically click it and spin it up here directly in your project. You get a preview exactly of, which steps and what will be deployed with some documentation, how to use it. And I think if you imagine, okay, you could, use this in your own organization, publish your own templates for your specific, systems and use cases. This is quite cool to simplify, integration patterns basically in the organization. Cool. So I was just testing out one before the session today. Also, I think it's very interesting, between Google Sheets, for example, syncifying real-time Shopify products with Google Sheets. Google Sheets is, again and again, such a useful tool for extracting data and making it easy to share and extract data from different systems. So it's very cool to automate this very easily through application integration. Or an easy one to set up is the the SFTP sync I've actually used in a project. For example, also the email functionality is very useful, really super useful in application integration. So for example, listening to a cloud pub subtopic and sending an email or extracting data from messages and sending emails based on data that comes in. Really interesting, especially maybe in testing or different support cases, right? Making it easy to help users see exactly which orders or data is coming in on different topics, and making it easy to subscribe or put filters in place to see specific messages that come in. Cool. So that was the other topic. I think to wrap up, I will pass it back to you, Alex. And if there are no other questions, or happy to discuss anything, if anyone has something.
Thank you, Tyler. I see no more questions in the Q&A. I want to say thank you to everyone who joined us. So let me start wrapping this up. And if not, you can always reach out to us through the Apigee or the application integration forums through the Google Cloud community. So I'll be more than happy to have you engaging with us through these areas of the community. Now, for you, what other resources you can reach out? Of course, the forums I just mentioned and the overall community that we have out there for you. You can also take a look at the product articles we have shared. If you go into the Apigee and application integration forums, you'll see a summary of all the articles that were shared by SMEs such as Tyler and Maria during 2024. So you can leverage these resources and learn from them. And about the upcoming sessions, we will keep on having these weekly sessions with all of you. And then also check out the community for the upcoming sessions we will have across the world and in different time zones. This is what we have in plan for the 2025. So keep an eye on us. And lastly, we would love to have your feedback for these sessions. I already shared the link with you, but just so that it can be easier for you, I'm going to share a quick poll so that you can give us your feedback now. You should see a pop-up option if you go to the geometric figures in your Google Meet session, and then click on polls, and then you'll get them right there. Thanks. I see we have one question, one reply as of now. So I guess that's it for now. Anything that you would like to say to close our session, Tyler and Maria? And again, thank you for both of you to be our speakers today.
Thanks.
All righty, team. Then I guess we'll see you next week. Have a great rest of your week and enjoy your weekend. And be well. Bye-bye,
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone. See you soon.
Have a nice day. Thanks. Bye-bye.